like to give it to our listeners?
Oh, well, I'm just building up on the conversation we had last week. And on that occasion, we talked about the requirements of immigration rules to be applied on certain people. So let me just recap what we talked about. We talked about Section 1 of the Immigration Act 1971 and how that differentiated between people who needed to fulfill requirements of immigration rules as opposed to those who didn't. The first category that we said were individuals that didn't need to fulfill any particular rules to enter or re-enter the United Kingdom, were people with a right of abode, including some people who belong to the Commonwealth. These individuals can simply enter and re-enter the UK without any restrictions, and all they simply need to do is demonstrate their identity. Most often than not, that would be with showing a passport. The second category of people who actually enter the UK not under the British laws, but English laws, but through EU law. So EU citizens that are exercising the treaty rights can enter under EU law and therefore don't have to meet the immigration controls from the English rules and requirements. That leaves us the third category, which is the category that most people are interested in. These are people that are non-EU citizens, people who don't have a right of abode. When they want to gain entry into the UK, they need to meet the requirements of immigration rules and controls. Now, that applies to a significant number of the community, all the people that are from Pakistani background, Bangladeshi background, Indian background, Somali background, Yemeni background, or whatever. They will need to take into consideration these rules and regulations when they are coming into the UK, or when they are sponsoring someone to come to the UK, whether that's simply on a general visitor visa or for the purpose of settlement. So that's a starting point that we're going to move forward with, that people need to take into consideration why the rules apply for some people and they don't apply to other people. Sometimes people ask me that question, well, how come so-and-so's come in and he's not had to fulfill any requirements, and in this case you're asking that we meet these requirements and that requirement. Those things are defined in Section 1 of the Immigration Act 1971 as a starting point. So hopefully people can get their head around that, and then we can move forward onto some of the requirements.
Yes, I think so. The people find this very informative, as we had feedback from previous show last week, which is very beneficial to all the listeners, particularly those people who are trying to bring their families to the UK or their loved ones to the UK. So what is the procedure of this entry?
Well, general visitor visa tends to be one of the most popular visa applications that people make. It tends to be one of the main applications that people tend to want to sponsor. British citizens or settled individuals that want to sponsor people are quite eager, enthusiastic about learning about the general visitor visa requirements. And it's really important that people understand this, because although it seems very straightforward on the face of it, a lot of people make very simple mistakes. They don't understand the requirements, they miss out the requirements, make a lot of assumptions, and they end up spending time, money, energy in sponsoring their friend or family member, and they end up with wasted time and costs because they didn't know what they were doing. In some cases, the mistake is made by the sponsor in the UK. In other cases, the mistake is made by the person who's the applicant in the other country, and failure to understand these rules and requirements would lead to consequences of wasted time and money. Now, I'm hoping that we can touch on some of the areas that people can ensure that they understand and they don't make these mistakes. It's important to fulfill the requirements of the rules, of the immigration rules, in order to have a successful application.
Yeah, that's very important. And if anybody like to ask any question to Shahid Hussain, who's a solicitor from Khan Solicitors, please do call on our studio hotline 0114-2425-200, or either you can send us a text on the WhatsApp or normal text on 078855998786. So this way your particular question will be answered, and if anything else you like to know regarding the immigration law, so you can call. And other method was we ask the listeners that you can send email if you have some serious questions, and then Shahid will be able to answer next week, inshallah. So we will continue to the entry again, because that's the most important, the way the people handle it. Some people, we find other countries, there are agents involved, and they suggest to people different approach and different methods.
Well, that's a really good point that you've made, because we often get people getting advice from lawyers that are based in other countries. So they'll come and say, well, somebody in India told me, a lawyer in India told me that I need to do this, I need to do that. Somebody in Pakistan might say the lawyer there told me to do this and to do that. There's a general protocol amongst lawyers, and it's this, that you should only be interested in dealing with the law of the country in which you're trained in.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be my place to start telling people what the law is in Pakistan, because that's not the area that I've studied under, and that's not the area that I've trained under. So it's really important to understand that when you're making an application, for example, from Pakistan to come to the UK, the law that you're dealing with is not Pakistani law, it's English law. It's the English legal system that you're dealing with, and therefore you need to have somebody that's based in the UK and is qualified to give that advice based on their understanding of the English legal system and English immigration rules and requirements. Please don't make the mistake of asking advice from people in other countries. In some cases, we've found that they've been charged an extortionate amount of money for advice that in the end was sometimes unnecessary, and other times it was completely wrong. And they invested money into the process when it wasn't required. So always bear that in mind, that if you're acting to sponsor somebody, or there is somebody in a different country that is a friend and family member that wants to apply to come to the UK, you need to find somebody in the UK that's qualified to be able to give you that correct advice. It will save you time, it'll save you money, and also it's important to know that a visitor application no longer carries the right to appeal. They did away with that. So when you make an application as a general visitor, if you are declined, they'll give you a reason as to why they've declined the application, but they won't give you the right to make an appeal, in which case you've simply wasted your time in that exercise. And although you have the right to start from the beginning and reapply again, you've in effect wasted that opportunity, and they will have made a record of your application. And if it's a pertinent blunder that you've made, it will stay on the file, and it could keep cropping up again and again. Which is why I tell people that try to do it right the first time. And if you do it right the first time, you will usually, if you meet the requirements, be given the result that you're looking for, and you're going to avoid in the long term losing money and losing your time, and people getting frustrated by the whole process. We get a lot of that, people coming in where they've they've tried to do an application themselves, or they've tried to get advice from people who didn't know what they were saying or doing, and they put the application in and they simply wasted their energy and time and became frustrated. And then once we have to pick up that application, we have to then deal with the mistakes that they made previously. And sometimes the mistake can be so significant that it's almost impossible to undo. So please get it right the first time. Make sure you get the right advice from the right people, and you will, I'm sure, see the wisdom in that in the long term.
Yeah, that's true. Because whoever make or fill the application form, it's very important to have a proper advice, somebody who's well known in immigration law, and he can give the advice as well. So we whatever Shahid Hussain giving you is a journal advice, and that does not affect any case or any individuals. So if you have particularly any case you like to discuss, as we had last week as well, a few calls and few texts. So if you have anything to ask as a advisor, so you can call us on 01142425200, or either you can text us on our studio number 078855599786, and also you can, as you are watching on Facebook and YouTube, so if you have any question, you can send us on the Facebook Iman TV online. So we will be reading, or we're going to ask the question to Shahid Hussain. Shahid is representing the Khan solicitors, which is they have head office in Bradford, and also they have Sheffield branch on Aberdeen Road,
351 Aberdeen Road. Yeah.
So and he give the advice on immigration law. So any question you like to ask him, he will be able to answer your question. So we'll continue.
Okay, so
for the next step.
The next step, we mentioned this last week, that once we've established that the person that is looking to come to the UK is under the third category, that means they don't have a right of abode, they're not an EU citizen, then the immigration rules are applicable to them. They fall into two types of category depending on which type of country they come from. The first type of country is a non-visa national country, and the other category is a visa national country. So the difference between the two is that a visa national country will need to convince the entry clearance officer that they meet the requirements of the rules before they travel to the UK, as opposed to non-visa national countries such as people coming from the United States. They don't need to meet the they don't need to convince the entry clearance officer before they leave their country. They can arrive in the UK, and then they would have to demonstrate that they meet the requirements once they arrive here. So the immigration rules in paragraph 41 stipulate what the requirements are that need to be met by a general visitor who intends to come to the UK. That needs to be demonstrated before they leave their own country to the High Commission or the embassy, depending on who's processing the application form for them. So let me go through each of those points that are required by the general visitor. And when you are making a sponsorship for somebody, or you're an applicant, you need to take these things into consideration. And if they're not in place, you can think about the possibility of correcting any shortfalls in that. And hopefully, if you correct all these things, it will stand you a better chance of getting the general visitor's visa. So the first requirement that you need to meet is that you have to have the intention of not exceeding 6 months of stay in the UK as part of that visa. So you're intending to come to the UK as a general visitor, your intention should be, and not only should it be in your intent, but it should also be demonstrated as part of your application process that you don't intend to stay here longer than 6 months. If the entry clearance officer gets an indication that you in fact going to stay here longer, they're very likely to refuse you.
True.
Now people say, well, how can we show that? You know, how do we show that we don't want to stay here longer than 6 months? Well, good way of going about it is to show the reasons as to why you're coming here. And people have different reasons as to why they want to travel to the UK. Sometimes it might be because there's a family wedding taking place. That's quite often a reason that people apply. They want to come and participate in a wedding. Sometimes it might be the birth of a new child, grandchild, relative's child that they want to come and visit. Sometimes it might be a special occasion like a graduation or a family get-together, or it might even be for more sad reasons, which could include, say, somebody's passed away. There's a funeral taking place and they want to come over and give their condolences and participate in the religious ceremony of the person passing away. But then again, it could also be just for tourism. It could be just a social visit. Whatever the case may be, it's the responsibility of the applicant to try to demonstrate as clearly as possible the reason for their visit and why they will not be staying more than 6 months as a general visitor. So that's the first point. The second requirement that needs to be met if you're applying for a general visitor is that you need to demonstrate that you intend, after the period of time is completed, to leave the UK. So although you might demonstrate that you're coming here for, say, a funeral, or you might be coming here for a wedding, you also need to convince the entry clearance officer before you travel to the UK that you have the full intention to leave the UK. Now you might say, well, how do we again demonstrate that we intend to leave the UK? Well, some people do that by buying a return flight ticket. Yeah. And if you have a return flight ticket and you've obviously spent money on purchasing that and it's within the 6 months, that's a really clear indication to the entry clearance officer or the immigration officer at the airport and the port that you do intend to leave because you've invested money to return back. Another way to demonstrate that you have an intention to go back where you've come from is commitments. So you might have family from the country that you're coming from, if you were traveling from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh or whatever, and you've got family there, or you've got commitments there such as a business or an employment, then that would show some indication that you have to go back, right? If you've got a wife or husband or children that you're leaving behind, that would be a good indication to the entry clearance officer that you would simply have to go back to meet your family obligations.
Yeah, that's true. That is the proof they have to give, some kind of proof. I remember when I applied for my elder brother. Yeah. And it was he's disabled, but entry clearance officer refused it. Then we actually collected all the information, which is he actually attached with those things. Particularly, he owned the land and other things. So that when we provided to the tribunal, and they accepted, they said, "Yeah, that's fine." Well,
this is one of the benefits of going to somebody who can advise you correctly is that they can go through the papers with you. Yeah. Not only can they go through the circumstances of the applicant who might be in a different country, but also the evidence that you're likely to provide as a sponsor of an application. And just simply getting someone to go through that. And because we deal with this on a day-to-day basis, we regularly see the reasons for refusal. So we see that the reasons and circumstances entry clearance officers provide applicants. We've got a good sense of when an application is strong and when an application is likely to fail. And sometimes people don't want to hear it. They'll come into the office and say, here's the papers and we want to put this application in. And if you say to them, well, this is not going to cut it, they sometimes don't want to hear it. Now, you can decide in your mind that you don't want to hear something, but at the end of the day, in the long run, you're going to end up with more frustration on your hands than if you take sensible advice from people that are experienced and qualified and giving that advice. So nobody wants to waste their time. Nobody wants to waste their money in an application that's not going to lead to anything. And people who are qualified to give you that advice will do so with the sincerity of helping you to ensure that you do it as quickly and as effectively as possible. So it's important to understand the rules, and it's important to get somebody to evaluate your applications and your sponsorship documents in order to cut the time as short as possible. So that's the first two. The third thing is that as part of the visitor visa's requirement, you're not allowed to work. So you need to give reassurances to the entry clearance officers that whilst you're here as a general visitor, you're not going to seek employment, you're not going to work. Now, how do you demonstrate that? Well, a good way of demonstrating that is that if you've already got a reasonable income coming in from the country that you're coming from, the person that you're sponsoring, the applicant, if they've got a good income, they've got a business, they've got money in the bank, then it's going to be pretty clear that they don't need to come here to seek employment. Immigration rules are designed to stop people from exploiting loopholes and avenues and to cut out and remove people that are not genuine in their application. So when somebody's putting an application as a general visitor, then, well, that's what they expect the person to be doing, to be coming here simply as a visitor. So requirement number 3 is that you need to give reassurances that you're not going to seek employment when you come here. And requirement 4, which is an extension of 3, is that you're not going to come here and produce goods and services. So you could say, well, I'm not coming here to do a job, but I'm going to sell things, right? So you come here with a suitcase of things and you start selling things or trying to set up a service that you know provide to people in exchange for money. Well, the requirements are that you're not to do that.
You're not to do that.
Because you're here only as a visitor, right? You only come here to visit.
True.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going for a break.
Okay.
And after the break, we're going to turn into the Apni Zaban, which is...
I was hoping to finish these first, and then we can translate them.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, after the break, we'll be coming back and keep listening. Immigration Law with Shahid Hussain.
Your voice, your choice. You are listening to Radio Iman on 103.1 FM.
The message of Ahlul Bayt.
قال النبی من مات بحب آل محمد مات شہیدا جو کوئی محمد و آل محمد کی محبت میں مرا اس نے شہادت پا لی.
Don't forget to tune in every Tuesday 8 to 10 p.m. only on Iman FM.
Khan Solicitors, experienced criminal defense lawyers in defending your rights. We can assist you get the best possible outcome if you're involved in any criminal matters, including murder, drug offences, sexual offences including grooming, terrorism, fraud and money laundering. We can provide free advice and assistance 24/7 at the police station. Call us on 0114 258 3399 at 351 Abbeydale Road, Sheffield. Visit us at khansolicitors.com. Over 20 years experience in defending your rights.
क्या आप बच्चों की शादी के सिलसिले में परेशान हैं? क्या आप बर्तानिया में ही बच्चों की शादी करना चाहते हैं? क्या आप एक अच्छे रिश्ते की तलाश में हैं? अगर इन सवालों का जवाब हाँ में है, तो आपका मसला हल हो गया। बर्तानिया में रिहाइश पजीर आला तालीम याफ्ता किसी भी बरादरी के अच्छे रिश्तों के लिए आप राब्ता मैरिज हेल्पलाइन से इस टेलीफोन नंबर पर राब्ता कायम करें 0114 2425 400 राब्ता मैरिज हेल्पलाइन मुसलमान खानदानों को करीब लाने का राब्ता
Coversure Insurance Rotherham are your friendly local brokers who can insure all your needs, whether it is for your own car, home or property you let. We also have specialist insurers for your shop, restaurants and takeaways. We can cover all aspects of the motor trade and we have some excellent rates for taxis, minibuses and commercial vehicles, including fleet policies. All written quotes can be beaten. Please call us today on 01709 556 230. We are open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday.
Sheffield's finest buffet restaurant, Mirpuri Dera, reviving the taste of Asian subcontinent. Extensive buffet with more than 40 dishes.
नई इंतजामिया, नया साफ सुथरा माहौल, मुनफरिद खाने, 40 से ज़ायद dishes, party organizer, मशरकी रवायात का अलंबरदार, halal food.
Mirpuri Dera, Stanifeth Road, Darnall, 0114 244 9199 under new management.
जेड़ा भी पाए एक बारी फेरा, वो आवे बार-बार मीरपुरी डेरा.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम हम आपके शुक्रगुजार हैं कि आपने अल हबीब वेलफेयर फाउंडेशन के साथ भरपूर तावन किया आपके ज़कात सदक़ात फिदिया और सदक़ातुल फितर बगैर किसी कमी के हम इंतहाई गरीब पसमानदा इलाकों के यतीमों बेवाओं माज़ूरों और ज़रूरतमंदों तक पहुंचाते हैं अल्लाह ताला आपके तावन को कबूलियत का आला दर्जा अता फरमाए
For more information please contact Maulana Aslam Zaid on 0789 454 0303 alhabibwelfarefoundation.co.uk
In a world where accident claims are poorly managed and the referral fees paid are so low, and just when all hope is lost in the city of Sheffield, a hero emerges. A hero so powerful, one phone number is all you need. A hero named Mr. Compensator. For your referral fee of £2,000, call Mr. Compensator now on 0114 3863 386. Terms and conditions apply.
Iman FM. This is Iman FM. You are listening Iman FM 103.1 FM.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Immigration Law with Shahid Hussain. Shahid working with Khan Solicitors and he is immigration advisor. Unfortunately, early on I said solicitor, which is not the case, but he is a lawyer, but under the immigration law, and he is advisor to as an advisor, he worked with the Khan Solicitors. So, any immigration changes or like to know anything about immigration law, Shahid will be able to help you or assist you, or he can actually give you the information or advice. So, we will be continue because Shahid still have some other information to give it to you. So before we turn into our own language, so Shahid will be we are talking about the visit visa, isn't it?
Yeah, we are. So thank you for that clarification. I'm not a solicitor, so if anybody misunderstood that, we'll just clarify that for you. I work for Khan Solicitors in the immigration department, but I'm not a solicitor. So just to make that clear, we got to point 4. The next point is point 5, that the visitor needs to demonstrate that he or she will be able to maintain and accommodate themselves in the UK. Whilst they're in the UK, there shouldn't be a burden on public services and such. A good way to demonstrate that would be that they've got money in their bank from the country they're coming from. Sometimes people think that they could demonstrate that without showing the sources of the money, but that leads to questioning. So, just because you've got money transferred into your bank account just before the application doesn't mean that will automatically qualify you. The money has to be from an identifiable source, and it should be sufficient to be able to maintain you for the period of time that you're coming here to the UK. Part of what the sponsor can do is that the sponsor can put themselves forward as providing some of that money. That could be for the travel costs, or it could be for maintaining them and accommodating the person here in the UK. Now, obviously, if the applicant doesn't have a sponsor, doesn't have a place to be accommodated by a sponsor, then they need to show where they're going to stay. So it'd be a good idea to have some kind of hotel booking. Moving on to the next point is point 6. You need to demonstrate that you can meet the costs of your return. Now, if you've already shown, as I've said earlier, a return ticket, then you've shown that you meet this requirement 6, that you can meet the costs of your return. If you don't have a return ticket, then you need to certainly show that you've got enough money to pay for a return ticket when you're ready to go back. If you come with not much money in your bank account and you've only just purchased a plane ticket to come one way, they're going to look at that and think, well, you're going to come here, but you don't even have the money to go back, so you're going to be stuck and stranded in this country, and that obviously is a requirement that isn't going to be met, and you're going to be refused. Requirement number 7 is that you should be at least 18 years old, which is straightforward. Requirement 8 is that you don't intend to conduct business. Now, that's slightly different from the previous one which we've given, which is point 4 about not producing goods and services. Here's point 8, that you're not going to come here with the intention of conducting business, which could be business that is located in a different country. There are different categories that allow you to do some of these things that we've said that are not permitted under this visa application. So please don't get confused that, I'm saying that you can't do business when you come to the UK. You can, but not under this specific visa application. The application is suggesting that you're coming here simply for a visit, and that's why these requirements are excluding these elements which may be permitted under different categories. Point 9 is that you don't intend to come here to get married or enter into a civil partnership. There are categories of visas, and we can perhaps touch on that at a later stage on people who wish to get married. I know that's a very popular subject. A lot of people wanting to get married. You can come here after you've got married, or you can come here if you intend to get married. But when it comes to general visitor visa, you should not have the intention of wanting to get married. So as part of the disclosure process, if you say to the entry clearance officer, well, I want to come over to the UK as a visitor, but I also intend to find a wife and intend to get married, or I've got a wife there lined up, then that would probably jeopardize the application. You're probably going to get refused, and if you want to do that, then you need to consider a different category altogether. Point 10 is that you don't have the intention to come here to receive private medical treatment. So some people might think that, well, I want to come to the UK and I want to go see a doctor, and that's why I want to come here. There are categories of that, but we're talking here specifically about a general visitor visa, and so you shouldn't have that as part and parcel of this application. The 11th point is that you don't intend to transit outside of the common travel area of the UK. The common travel area of the UK is basically the UK and Ireland. So some people have said that, they want to come to the UK, but they intend to travel further on to another country. Well, if you want to do that, then the general visitor visa is not the application you need to be putting in. The 12th category, which I don't think applies to the vast majority of people, is people wanting to come here to do archaeological surveys and excavations, and I don't think most people fall into that category, so I'll skip that. So that's generally what you need to take into consideration as part and parcel of the application requirements. And once you are granted that, then you will be granted it for no more than 6 months. And although there are consequences of overstaying, generally if you exceed anything less than 28 days of the overstay time, you can apply for an extension on that original visitor visa. So I hope that makes sense to everybody. I hope everybody's benefiting from that and taking notes as and when they require, and we can hopefully avoid people suffering frustration and heartache.
Yeah, that's right. Do you like to give some explanation in our own language, which is I think you covered most of areas with entry and then visitor visas. So how do you describe in our own language then?
अच्छा इस विजिटर ने कैटेगरी जड़ी है जनरल विजिटर कैटेगरी ने बारे असां गल करने आ काफ़ी ज़्यादा बंदियां वास्ते ए इम्पोर्टेंट सब्जेक्ट है काफ़ी ज़्यादा बंदे अपने रिश्तेदारां की बुलाना चाहने दोस्त यार फैमिली मेंबर की बुलाना चाहने पाकिस्तानों बांग्लादेश तो इंडिया तो डिफरेंट मतलब है मुख्तलिफ किस्म ने रीजंस वास्ते उन्हें बुलाना चाहने कई बंदे शादी नहीं हाज़री वास्ते बुलाने चाहने कई बंदे कोई बंदा फौत हो गया उन्हें की मतलब है शामिल होने वास्ते बुलाना चाहने कई बंदे सालगिरह वास्ते बुलाने चाहने ग्रेजुएशन वास्ते बुलाने चाहने या वैसे बंदे की बुलाना चाहने मतलब है काफ़ी टाइम हो गया तो मुलाकात नहीं हुई रिश्तेदार ने वो बच्चे पैदा हो गए तो उन्होंने ग्रैंड पेरेंट्स ना मुलाकात नहीं हुई तो मतलब है जो मुख्तलिफ किस्म ने विजिटेशन रीजंस उस कैटेगरी ना एप्लीकेशन है वीज़ा अगले हफ्ते असां इस बारे ने टच अप किया सी कि इमिग्रेशन सेक्शन 1 ना जड़ा डेफिनेशन है वो आखने के 3 किस्म ने बंदे नहीं क्या पहला बंदा जिसने की राइट ऑफ अबोर्ड है उसकी कोई रिस्ट्रिक्शंस नहीं हो यूके च दाखिल हो सकना ते वापस भी निकल सकना इजाज़त के बगैर दूसरा किस्म का बंदा जड़ा EU नेशनल है वो यूके एंट्री ते एग्जिट यूके EU लॉ ने मुताबिक हो सी तीसरा कैटेगरी है वो जड़े बंदे इन्ना दोआं च नहीं शामिल होने उन्हां वास्ते इमिग्रेशन रूल्स रिक्वायरमेंट्स तैयार किया गया तो उन्हां की इन्ना रिक्वायरमेंट्स की मीट करना चाहिए तो जेड़ा बंदा नहीं मीट करना उसने फिर एप्लीकेशन डिक्लाइन हो जानी है
ठीक है
तो जिस तरह मैं दसना सा कि कई बंदे इस एप्लीकेशन की कोशिश करने तैयार करना खुद तैयारी करने या किसी और बंदे नाल मशवरा करने तो निकी गलतियां ने वजह तो उन्होंने एप्लीकेशन डिक्लाइन हो जाना है तो इसका मतलब है कि उन्होंने टाइम ज़ाया हो जाना है उन्होंने पैसा ज़ाया हो जाना है तो बंदे काफ़ी ज़रा परेशान हो जाने तो जे तुसां स्पॉन्सरशिप ने पेपर वर्क तैयार करने हो तो जो बंदे उत्थे बैठे न वो काफ़ी खफा होने कि तुसां कियां एप्लीकेशन ख़राब कर छुड़िया है क्या वजह सी तो असां क्या गलती की है तो फिर बाद पता चलना कि निक्की मोटी गल्लां ने पिछे उन्हें इनकार कर छुड़िया तो हमारा मकसद अज है कि तुसां की कराई तो गल दसनी है कि जेड़े एंट्री क्लीयरेंस बंदे बैठे न उत्थे दूए मुल्खां च ब्रिटिश एम्बेसी विच ब्रिटिश हाई कमीशन विच वो इन्ना चीज़ां की असूल की अप्लाई करने और एप्लीकेशन उन्हें सामने रखना तो इन्ना चीज़ां की वो तवज्जो देने कि इस चीज़ की रिक्वायरमेंट फुलफिल हुई कि नहीं जे फुलफिलमेंट नहीं हुई वो फिर इनकार कर छुड़ने तो बाद च पता चल गया कि तुसां इस रिक्वायरमेंट की मीट नहीं किया फिर तुसां कोई फ़ायदा नहीं ना तो मैं तुसें कि हुण दसना है एप्लीकेशन तो पहलू जे तुसां इस चीज़ पर गौर करो तो फिर तुसां वास्ते फ़ायदा हो जासी ते जिन्ना बंदियां की तुसां स्पॉन्सर करना चाहने उन्हां की भी मतलब है पैगाम पहुंच सकने हो ते उन्हां की भी मतलब फ़ायदा हो जासी
जी जी माशाल्लाह
कम से कम 12 जेडे नुक्ते न असां की अंडरस्टैंड करना चाहिए पहला नुक्ता ये है कि जेड़ा बंदा जनरल विजिटर ना एप्लीकेशन देना चाहना है उसकी 6 महीने तो ज़्यादा नीयत नहीं होनी चाहिए ठीक है ना पर तुसां प्लीज़ एक कराए ते गल सोचो कि असां जनरल विजिटर ने गल करने दुए वीज़े ने गल ना करने जिन्हां ने ज़्यादा टाइम नहीं मतलब इजाज़त है असां जनरल विजिटर वीज़े ने गल करने जिन्हें बंदे सिर्फ विजिटेशन वास्ते अच्छा चाहने शॉर्ट टर्म वास्ते पहला नुक्ता यह है कि तुसां नीयत नहीं है कि तुसां 6 महीने तो ज़्यादा इतना टाइम कटना चाहने हो तो बंदा ये सवाल पूछ सकना है कि असां किस तरह साबित कर सकने हैं कि असां 6 महीने तो ज़्यादा ना रहना चाहने एक तरीका ही है कि जो तुसां जिला टिकट खरीदने ने बुकिंग करनी हो उस वक्त तुसां रिटर्न फ्लाइट भी बुक कर सकने हो ठीक है ना तो उस रिटर्न फ्लाइट में कम से कम 6 महीने तो कम डेट होनी चाहिए ते ए फिर तुसां जिला अपना एप्लीकेशन सबमिट कर सो और फिर जाहिर हो सी कि इस बंदे ने नीयत है वापस जाने ना क्योंकि जिन्नी वापस गया उसना नुकसान हो सी
जी बिल्कुल
दूसरा नुक्ता ये है कि उस बंदे ने नीयत है कि 6 महीने मुकम्मल हो जैसे मुकम्मल होने तो पहले उसकी वापस जाने ने पूरी नीयत है हुन इसकी किस तरह साबित करा बंदे इस तरह साबित कर सकने कि जिस बंदे ने मुल्क विच आप कोई रिश्तेदारी थी है बीवी बच्चे होन जिम्मेदारियां होन नौकरी हुआ है स्टडी हुआ है ये सारा कुछ बंदा साबित कर सकना है कि माड़ी नीयत वापस जाने ना क्योंकि जे मैं वापस ना गया बीवी बच्चे उत्थे पीछे छोड़ गया तो उन्हां नाल मुलाकात नहीं होनी मिसाल ने तौर तीसरा नुक्ता है कि उस बंदे ने इत्थे अचने तो बाद विजिटर वीज़ा ने टाइम विच उसने नीयत नहीं है काम करने वास्ते ठीक है ना कि उसने नीयत ये साफ गल है कि मैं इत्थे अच्छा चाहना सिर्फ बंदियां की मिलने वास्ते है कोई टूरिज्म वास्ते करना सैर करने वास्ते है पर मारी काम करने नहीं कोई इरादा नहीं है ठीक है ये तीसरा नुक्ता है पॉइंट नंबर 4 जिहड़ा है वो है कि इत्थे आए के वो कोई बिजनेस नहीं चलाना ठीक है ना कई बंदे वो गलती कर छुड़न कि जिला एप्लीकेशन टाइम विच वो एक गल दस छुड़न कि मैं उत्थे जासा कम करसा मैं उत्थे जासा चाचे ने दुकान उत्थे थोड़ा मासा कम कर छुड़सा वो सोचने कि इसना कोई फर्क नहीं पैना वो सोचने कि वो इमिग्रेशन ऑफिशियल खुश हो जासन कि ये बंदा अपनी जिम्मेदारी पूरी करसी पर इस गल आखने ने प्रॉब्लम ही है कि ये रिक्वायरमेंट्स ने खिलाफ है ठीक है ना तुसां जिला ये एप्लीकेशन डालनी हो तुसां आखने हो कि मैं सिर्फ सैर करने वास्ते मुलाकात करने वास्ते अचना चाहना तो फिर तुसां एक गल नो करी सकने प्रोडक्शन ऑफ गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज पॉइंट नंबर 5 ये तुसां के साबित करना चाहिए है कि जिस वक्त वो तुसां ऐसो ने इस मुल्क च तुसां अपनी पूरी जिम्मेदारी निभासो कि मतलब है जिथे रेसो ते खाने पीने ना बंदोबस्त खर्चा सारा तुसां आपू मतलब है अपनी जिम्मेदारी बनसी सोनी इसने एप्लीकेशन नाल तुसां ये शामिल कर सकने कि कोई बंदा तुसां के स्पॉन्सर करना ठीक है ना जिस बंदे को स्पॉन्सरशिप नहीं है वो फिर उसकी अकेला साबित करना पैसी कि मारे को पैसा थिया तो मारे को अकोमोडेशन मिसाल ने तौर पर कोई होटल बुकिंग हो गई है ज़्यादा तौर जेडे बंदे एप्लीकेशन डालने वो उन्होंने रिश्तेदार होने थे स्पॉन्सरशिप वास्ते तो उन्होंने फिर जिम्मेदारी बननी है कि वो मतलब है सपोर्ट करें एप्लीकेशन की कि ये बंदा ऐसी थे ऐसा ना रहे सी ठीक है ना ये पॉइंट नंबर 5 हो गई है पॉइंट नंबर 6 है कि तुसां ये साबित करना चाहिए है कि तुसां की जेड़ा खर्चा है वापस जाने वास्ते है वो तुसां ने हत्थ च है जे तुसां रिटर्न टिकट बुक की है फिर ये जाहिर है तुसां ये साबित किया है कि तुसां पहलों खर्चा पूरा कर छोड़िया कि तुसां को टिकट थी है तुसां वापस जाने ने नीयत भी थी है पर जे तुसां रिटर्न टिकट बुक नहीं किया फिर तुसां ने कोल पैसा होना चाहिए कम से कम फ्लाइट रिटर्न वास्ते है तो उसने विच सिर्फ फ्लाइट रिटर्न भी नहीं पर जेड़ा तुसां ना खाने पीने ना कॉस्ट है वो भी उस कॉस्ट विच शामिल होना चाहिए ठीक है ना पॉइंट नंबर 7 के तुसां कम से कम तुसां उम्र 18 साल नहीं होनी चाहिए पॉइंट नंबर 8 के तुसां इत्था आकर तुसां कोई तजारत न करने ठीक है ना बिजनेस वास्ते तुसां इत्थों आए जिस तरह मैं इंग्लिश विच मैं गल दसी से मैं दोबारा दसना कि जेडे बंदे बिजनेस करना चाहने न उन्हां वास्ते अलग किस्म ना कैटेगरी थी है वीज़ा एप्लीकेशन वास्ते पर आज असां इस गल पर ना छेड़ने पर तुसां इस कैटेगरी पर तवज्जो करो कि जेड़ा बंदा जनरल विजिटर वास्ते अचना चाहना है उसनी कोई नीयत नहीं होनी चाहिए कि वो बिजनेस करना चाहना है अच्छा पॉइंट नंबर 9 जिहड़ी है कि तुसां नी कोई नीयत नहीं है कि तुसां इत्था शादी करने वास्ते चुने हो हूँ बंदे आखसन के जे तुसां नी मर्जी हुआ है कि कोई तुसां नी रिश्ता इत्थे तैयार हुआ है तो वो किस तरह अच्छा उस किस सबब पर अच्छा वो फिर जिस तरह मैं है ना वो अलग किस्म ना वीज़ा कैटेगरी है वो तुसां दूए वीज़े की इस्तेमाल करना चाहिए और दूआ रास्ता इस्तेमाल करना चाहिए पर ये जो जनरल विजिटर है इस विजिटर कैटेगरी की ये दसना चाहिए कि असां नी कोई नीयत नहीं है कि शादी करने ना या मंगनी करने वास्ते ये सारा कुछ अरेंजमेंट करने वास्ते कोई नीयत नहीं है ठीक है ना पॉइंट नंबर 10 कि तुसां नी कोई नीयत नहीं है कि तुसां इत्थे प्राइवेट मेडिकल ट्रीटमेंट वास्ते अचने हो ठीक है ना मकसद क्या है इस वीज़े ना मकसद ही है कि तुम सिर्फ सैर करने वास्ते आने हो फैमिली बिजनेस वास्ते जेह्ड़े पर्सनल प्राइवेट मैटर उन्हां वास्ते आए हो मुलाकात वास्ते आए हो तुसां मेडिकल ट्रीटमेंट वास्ते एक कैटेगरी नहीं है जेह्ड़े बंदे मेडिकल ट्रीटमेंट वास्ते अच्छा चाहें उन्होंने अलग किस्म का वीज़ा उसकी अप्लाई करना चाहिए ठीक है ना कैटेगरी नंबर 11 जड़ी है तुसां इत्थे ट्रांजिट वास्ते नो अच्छे ने इसका मतलब है कि कई बंदे जड़े ना हैं मसला तौर पर कोई बंदा है कि मैं यूके विच अच्छा चाहना रिश्तेदार इत्थे थे पर मैं फिर अमेरिका जाना चाहना कनाडा जाना चाहना इसके है ना ट्रांजिट वीज़ा तो इस वीज़ा की तुम इस्तेमाल करी सकने ट्रांजिट वास्ते सिवाय कॉमन ट्रैवल एरिया जड़ा जिन्ना हिस्सा बनना है यूके तो आयरलैंड ठीक है तो जी 12th कैटेगरी है वो असा की मतलब है इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है वो आर्कियोलॉजिकल कैटेगरी वास्ते जेडे बंदे इत्थे सर्वे तो एक्सकवेशन वास्ते करने तब मैं उसकी ना छेड़ना ठीक है ना जे तुसां ए रिक्वायरमेंट्स फुलफिल कर सो तो फिर तुसां की वीज़ा जनरल वीज़ा तो मिल जासी 6 महीने वास्ते मैक्सिमम ऑफ 6 मंथ्स इसने तो बाद तुसां एक्सटेंशन रिक्वेस्ट करी सकने हो पर तुसां की 28 डेज तो ज़्यादा जे तुसां ओवरस्टेड किया तो फिर तुसां की वो एक्सटेंशन नहीं दे सकने जे तुसां की उसने तो बाद एक्सटेंशन की नीयत है तुसां की कम से कम 28 डेज एक्सीडिंग द एंड टाइम तुसां की नहीं होना चाहिए इत्थे रुकावट ठीक है
जी माशाल्लाह बहुत अच्छा मेरे ख्याल खुलासा तुसीं पेश कीता है जितने पॉइंट ऐसा अपनी ज़बान जो कवर हो गए सारे पॉइंट कवर हो गए
पॉइंट कवर हो गए पर और कुछ भी थे
जी जी जी
हुन I want to move on to the next issue which is that once you arrive in the UK the entry clearance officer or the immigration officer there's a distinction between the two the entry clearance officer is the person who's based outside of the UK the immigration officer is the one that's based in the UK so when you arrive at the UK at an airport or you arrive at the UK at a ferry port you're dealing with an immigration officer as opposed to an entry clearance officer the entry clearance officer would be based outside the UK so they still have to take the opportunity to examine what paperwork you've got right so under paragraph 2 subsection 1 schedule 2 of the Immigration Act an immigration officer can stop somebody when they're entering the UK to decide if they're a British citizen and to decide if they are not a British citizen whether they require leave to enter the UK and to decide whether the person should be granted that leave or not. The usual documentary evidence that they require is the UK passport, which would prove the right of abode. But if not, if it falls into the other category, then they require proof of certificate of entitlement or the entry clearance. Now, the certificate of entitlement applies to countries that we said were non-visa nationals. So, for example, somebody who's coming from the United States might fall into that category. But for the entry clearance purposes, what we refer to as a visa will be for visa national countries, somebody coming from, say, Pakistan. Now, there's two types of categories that an immigration officer can refuse entry clearance at that point. And they fall into categories which are mandatory, so they will definitely refuse you entry. And then there's categories which are discretionary, so they can then decide that the person can't be allowed into the country. So let's go through the mandatory reasons for an immigration officer refusing you entry once you arrive at the passport. The first one is that the person's entry clearance is not covered by the rules. So although he's been given entry into the UK, it's not within one of the categories of the rules, and so it might be because his circumstances have changed. So if the person is looked at, his paper was looked at, and he doesn't fall into one of the categories of rules, then the person would be refused entry. Second category is that if a person is under a subject of a deportation, So they might have left the country, come back into the country, and it comes up on the system that the person is actually subject to a deportation order. Then it's pretty obvious that they're going to be refused entry. Another category that they could refuse entry is one where a person fails to provide a valid passport or ID. Maybe they've lost it, maybe they've forgotten it, maybe they've lost it in transit. It's pretty obvious that if you're going to arrive there and you're not going to have a passport, they're very, very likely to refuse entry clearance. Another category that a person could be prevented, and this happens often, you see it in news with people that are quite controversial. They want to come into the UK, but they are subject to an exclusion order, and that's usually on the basis that their presence in the UK is not conducive to the public good. You will see it time to time on the news that so-and-so person has been prevented from entering the UK, even though they might be, say, from a country like the United States of America, where on the face of it, they should be allowed into the UK. But because there's an exclusion order usually from the Secretary of State, they would be refused. Another category that a person might be refused is if the medical inspector considers it not appropriate based on medical reasons. Now, a lot of these categories don't apply to most people, but there's another one that we're going to move on to now, which is going to be important, which is the category of false representation. Mm-hmm. So that's when people have used false documents in their process of coming into the country. If it's come to light that the person is using false representations in coming into the country, then they will be quite often denied entry clearance into the UK. Some people employ that strategy in the hope that they can get into the country and secure entry, but quite often they could get caught, and the consequences of that could result in them being banned for a period of time after that. Other people, this next category is going to be important for people who have already applied, left the country and come back. Those are people that have overstayed previously for a period of time of more than 90 days. Right, and I'm making this point because people are often coming and going and think that there's no consequences of the overstaying. Well, here's a category that's going to make it important for you to understand why you shouldn't be an overstay and why you should get the immigration rules in order when you're putting in an application. That if you've overstayed for more than 90 days, then you risk the possibility of being denied entry clearance the next time you come.
We are approaching to the end of the show.
Yeah, so that leads me to the final point, which is if a person fails to attend an entry clearance officer's interview. So if you're in a different country and you're wanting to come to the UK and they invite you to an interview and you refuse to engage in that interview, and you arrive at the airport and the immigration officer gets sight of that, they could then refuse you entry clearance at that point. So it's really important to understand that. The discretionary grounds are also important to bear in mind. Discretionary here means that although they don't have to exclude you, they can take a decision to exclude you if you don't meet any of these. The first one is that you fail to provide the necessary information. That's going to be important when you're putting forward your application for, say, a general visitor visa application. If you fail to provide the necessary information as part of that process, they could decline you entry clearance or leave to enter. Second discretionary grounds is that if you attempted to frustrate immigration rules, so if you perhaps use deception as part of your application, some people think that by putting any documents in an application they'll be all right, but that can cause problems. And the other categories include criminal convictions, and if it's not in the public good.
I think we will discuss about criminal issues next week.
Yeah,
because that is lengthy.
It is,
very lengthy process. So thank you very much, Shahid. Once again, you came and give advice to our listeners. I hope many people have benefit of that, inshallah. And we will be back next week. And
yes, inshallah, hopefully.
I'm hoping the Shahid will be sitting on my seat, and I will be just helping him, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.